I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Welcome back to Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today is Wednesday, January 25th, 2023. And let's find out what's going on in the world of bodybuilding and fitness. It's Wednesday, and even though we don't have shows to recap, we wouldn't be doing our due diligence if we didn't lead off the show today with news about Big Ramy throwing his hat into the ring at the Arnold Classic, because his presence alone turns one of the biggest shows in bodybuilding into must-see TV. I know that there was some rumblings here and there about him tossing around the idea, but before he made the announcement, if anyone told you they knew for sure that he was heading to Columbus, they were lying, because this one definitely felt like a complete shock to the system. This lineup went from being a ghost town to being one of the deepest that we've ever seen almost overnight. And the reverberations from the way things end up playing out here are going to go a long way towards shaping people's opinions about what happens when they run this back on the Olympia stage in 10 months. So now that Ramy is in, here's the million-dollar question. Does that make him the new favorite? Because here's the thing. If we're going to base our opinions on who should be the favorite based on the Olympia placings, then the answer is obvious. From that standpoint, he has a lot of work to do before he can put his name on the same line as Nick Walker, who's the highest ranked athlete on the Arnold roster right now. But on the flip side, we saw the video he posted of his check-in when he was 1 week out from the Olympia, and that version of Ramy might have been good enough to retain the title. So you can't help but wonder if he can find a way to recreate that look now that he's had a few weeks to go back to the drawing board. Between Ramy, Nick, Samson, and William Bonac, we have a handful of guys who all have a legitimate shot to bring home the $300,000 here. And at this point, the answer to who's the favorite definitely isn't as clear as it was when we were talking about this show last week. As I just mentioned a moment ago, Samson Dauda is on the short list of guys who are going to be vying for a shot to win the Arnold Classic title in 6 weeks. And if you're a Samson fan, there's probably a strong case to be made here for him to be getting some more of the early votes right now. Shortly after he announced that he was competing in this year's Arnold Classic, we heard from his coach, Milos Sarcev, who said that Samson had a ton of room for improvement in terms of his conditioning, which was the sentiment that we heard Samson echo shortly thereafter when he said that his focus coming into the show was to make sure that his conditioning was 100% spot on, as opposed to trying to come in heavier on the scale. And when you consider the fact that him coming in at less than his best was still good enough to land him a top 6 spot at the Olympia, and that his sole focus for this entire prep is centered around making sure that that doesn't happen again in Columbus, it does give you some reason to believe that he might be getting overlooked here, which would make for one hell of a storyline if he can manage to sneak out of there with the win. And for as exciting as it is to know that we're going to see Big Ramy make his return to the Arnold Classic stage in a few weeks, as a bodybuilding fan, it is still somewhat of a bittersweet feeling now that we know for sure that Derek Lunsford has officially withdrawn himself from consideration. Derek made the announcement a few days ago on social media when he essentially said that competing at the Arnold essentially came down to answering this question: what's my ultimate goal here? And once he was able to get clear on that by deciding that his primary focus is on doing what it takes to win the Olympia title, everything pretty much fell into place. This will be his first full off-season as an open competitor, and giving his body an opportunity to grow without having to deal with the stress of another contest prep felt like the logical move if he's going to challenge Hottie for the title in November. And considering the fact that he doesn't even know how his body will respond to an elongated off-season that doesn't require him to restrict his growth, in hindsight, it's probably the perfect move. Because if he shows up with another 10 pounds of muscle and even better detail with the same level of conditioning that we saw in 2022, everyone in that lineup is going to have their hands full. And that does it for yet another edition of Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, reminding you to always be true to your passions, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.